You are going to affect your community. You're going to leave a lasting impression, footprint, memory, or legacy just by simply existing. You don't have to do anything great. You don't have to be the best at game development, or the best outdoor survivalist, or the best at donating to charity. No matter what you do, you will have a lasting impact. Today I'm going to tell you about 3 different texts, all with similar ideas. Into the Wild, a story about a man who disappeared, wanting to stay out of society. The Beginner's Guide, a video game narrative about a man finding solace in game creation. The Singer's Solution to World Poverty, which is a text that talks about a movie called Central Station that focuses on a woman buying a TV with money from selling a child to get his organs harvested. Chris, as depicted in the book Into the Wild, wanted no effect on the world. He wanted to stay away from society and explore. He talks about finding life exciting when living dangerously in the woods. Having too much money made him feel as if he was cheating. He wanted to rough it with no help. He denied gifts from his parents. They wanted to buy him a car and he saw it as an insult. This man wanted to be away from society. He decided to go into the woods, not wanting to leave a footprint in his community. However, he left a gigantic crevice wherever he stepped. At one point, he leaves his old yellow Datsun for someone to take if they could get it out of the woods. A cop found this car and used it for undercover drug operations. He never intended for that to happen, but it did. He had a positive impact on the world without intending to. Coda and the Beginner's Guide game made games for fun. He never intended for anybody to play them. He had his own philosophy as to what games should be. His games would at times be borderline difficult to play, not because of the player's skill level, but because of the design. Davey, the narrator of the game, explains a certain level in which there is a staircase in a vast, empty, bland setting. As you climb the stairs, the speed at which you climb becomes slower and slower. Soon it becomes almost impossible to reach the top. You're moving at a snail's pace. This game becomes almost unplayable. Same goes for later when Davey shows you a level with a jail cell. In order to progress, you have to wait in the jail cell for an hour before it opens again. In both scenarios, Davey ruins it in Coda's eyes by letting you move at a normal speed up the staircase and letting you skip the wait time in the jail cell. These games weren't meant for other people. It becomes clear throughout the game that Coda would much rather keep these games to himself than share or ask for feedback. Davey goes as far to mention that Coda called the recycling bin his important games folder. These games aren't meant to have an impact on anybody, yet they have this tremendous impact on Davey and the people he shared Coda's games with. He describes the amazing feedback he got from his friends while sharing Coda's games with them. It was something that Coda would never dream of asking for. Coda was fine being by himself, going as far to justify his loneliness and reclusiveness. As the years progress, Davey's able to spot signs in his games that Coda might not be alright. Dora from Central Station, as depicted by the Singer's Solution to World Poverty, finds herself in a horrible situation. She has the opportunity to get a lot of money by bringing a homeless kid to a house. She does so and buys a brand new TV. It's nothing she needs. In fact, it replaces an old one that works just as well. However, her neighbor tells her that instead of a happy home, the kid was brought there to be harvested for his organs. She has the choice between keeping the TV and the kid dying, or returning the TV and saving the kid. She has no obligation to do so, but she returns the TV and saves the child. She could have kept that TV, but she didn't. So, if you could save a child with $1,000 by donating to charity, why would you get a new phone? The money that went to buying a phone could have been used to save a child. Did you just kill a child? Now you're no better off than Dora. That's a horrible thought experiment that really gets your brain turning just by jumping to these extreme conclusions. You have an impact on society, whether you think you do or not. It matters how you spend your money, or if you decide to burn it in the woods. It matters to others about your own mental health, whether you want Davey or your parents to care or not. Every little decision you make affects somebody. Coda producing these inconsequential games inspired Davey to make his own, and the people that Davey shared them with were impacted by them as well. Chris's family and the people he knew became distraught when they heard of his death. His family members developed different eating disorders, and a close friend broke his own sobriety. This isn't to mention the trauma of the people discovering the body and identifying it. Dora purchasing a TV almost killed a child. All of these tiny decisions and small, inconsequential details had lasting impacts. It doesn't matter if you don't want to have an impact on society or not, you're going to. There's one particularly powerful level that you play through in the beginner's guide. It's a level that includes a gigantic theater in which Coda has a conversation with himself and an authority figure. As you play on, jail cell bars start falling from the ceiling, and it backs you up into a dark hallway, and they keep falling and falling and falling. The narrator, Davey, takes that to represent Coda's own reclusiveness. He's blocking himself off from all other conversations and the fear of failure, so that way he can protect himself. He's not wanting to have an impact on society, so he decides not to interact with society. He's quite literally barring himself in from the rest of the world. Chris is a very interesting character. He reminds me of my brother in some ways. My brother went camping one weekend, and he had no tent. He just slept underneath the sky. When he came back, he thought about how weird and surreal living in a house was. He described it as awkward and boxy and just very strange altogether. A year later, my brother, my cousins, and I all went camping in the same place, this time with a tarp. When we came back, I agreed with him. The house just felt weird living in. The fact that there were different rooms connected to each other. I could understand his point of view and what he was thinking of. While reading the book Into the Wild, I kind of saw my brother. I saw this man who just valued nature so highly, and I was able to relate that to my brother. Now, I don't agree with how Chris acted, completely barring himself off from the rest of society. However, I can see where he's coming from, as my brother has shared some similar views as well. I find Chris McCandless and Coda to be very similar to one another. Neither one of them wanted to have an impact on society, yet they did. Chris's whole story blew up to enormous heights that nobody would ever thought. This man just wanted to disappear into the forest, live his life naturally. Yet he somehow became a best-selling book. He somehow became a Netflix movie. He even had an impact on where he died. That bus is no longer there because visitors were having a hard time getting to it. And Coda had a huge effect on Davey, the narrator of the story, who talks about how he was a big inspiration for him creating the game The Stanley Parable. And that game was a hugely inspirational game for other game creators. So think about how all the people that affected. All because a man felt comfortable with sharing his games with his friend. He never meant to have that impact on him, yet he did. All in all, no matter what you do, you are going to have an impact on society. You're going to have an impact on your community. Whether that is small, whether that is big, it doesn't matter. It will snowball in some way. A random act of kindness could wildly affect somebody's life. And not in a direct manner, but a chain of events starting from you smiling or holding open a door or saying please and thank you. You are going to have an effect on your community.